What's going on, everyone? So I know a lot of you want to learn how to work with market data in real time, how to build your own programs, how to, study this stuff on your own and build your own stuff to make it happen. Well, I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to show you how to work with real-time market data, how you can build your own program from scratch, and I'll walk you through the entire process. This is going to be working with the webull API specifically, and it is a bit tricky initially to get some of the things built in order to gather the data needed, but I'm going to show you how to do it from start to finish. So all you're going to want to do is start a new project folder. I have a single file in this folder so far named main.py, and we're going to go through this. So we're going to be using one library initially, which is going to be the requests library. So go ahead and import requests. After you get that imported, you're going to want to go ahead and head over to webull.com. You do not need to sign in for this or even have an account really to do this at all. The way the API works for webull is it's not so straightforward as to where you can just query, AMC or GME and get the data you want. You're going to have to actually retrieve the ticker ID that webull has all the information stored in. And that's what I'm going to show you how to do in this initial video. So head over to the webull website. Once you're there, go ahead and hit Control-Shift-I on your keyboard. When you do that, you're going to have the developer window pop up. It's going to look something like this. It may look like this if it's your first time opening it. Just make sure you click on the Network tab, and once you're on the Network tab, just underneath this filter box here, click on the Fetch/XHR filter. That's going to help us retrieve the URLs we need much easier because it's going to have a lot less items show up in this box. Once you make sure that you have the Network tab clicked and the Fetch/XHR filter selected, go ahead and go up here to the symbol/name search box, and we're going to type in any ticker we want. This is how we're going to get our first URL endpoint needed to retrieve data. Now, we're going to use AMC for this example, so AMC. Now, you'll notice after I typed that, a new URL has appeared in our box. This is the URL that we need. So we're going to click this URL, and then once you do that, another box is going to open up to the right, and we're going to get the crucial piece of information that we need, which is the request URL. Simply just highlight this URL, copy it, and then we're going to go back to our project folder and we're going to paste it in our project file. But we're going to define it as URL equals, and then in quotes with an F at the beginning of it, we're going to paste that URL. Now the reason why we put an F in the beginning of this query string is because we're going to actually create a placeholder for the ticker. So where it says keyword equals, you're going to put keyword equals ticker. Ticker is going to be within curly brackets, and then above the URL we're going to define ticker as AMC in this example. Now there's also one more thing you're going to want to do where it says page size right here. Change the 20 to 1 so that we get the ticker we want and we don't have to get a bunch of extra data that we're not even going to need to work with. So once you have this done, from here all we're going to do is we're going to get the data, and to do that we're going to define response as requests.get. We're going to pass in the URL, which is URL, and then at the end of this, .json. From here, we can simply print the response to our terminal, and we should be able to retrieve some data. So let's see what happens. Okay, so after we run the program, this is our response object. So when this data appears, it's basically like a scavenger hunt. You want to know what are the variable names that I need to get in order to see the data that I want. So in this example, since the only purpose of this initial URL is to get the ticker ID that we want, very easily done, because as you can see here, the very first item that's holding all of the data we want is called data. So that's simple enough. And then within data, the first variable happens to be the ticker ID. So from here, we're going to head back to our program, and we're going to erase this print statement, and we're going to define the new variables that we have seen in that initial response. So data equals response, and then in brackets, data. And then ticker ID equals data. And then since there's a possibility there could be more than one response result, we're going to just put 0 to make sure that we're grabbing the very first one. And then brackets, ticker ID. So from here, now we can print ticker ID, and we should be able to see AMC's ticker ID returned in the terminal. So let's see what happens. Perfect. So this is AMC's ticker ID. Now we can use this for subsequent API calls for the webull URL. Let me show you what I mean. Take this URL, and we're going to store it, just for now, as AMC underscore ticker ID equals the ID. So from here, we're going to make a function that's going to be able to gather any ticker ID that we want in the future for future data that we're going to want to retrieve. But before I cut this video short, I'm going to show you an example of how we can now use this ticker ID. So I'm going to make a new file, and it's going to be called get underscore data.py. Oops, that was a folder. Like a file, get data.py. And then in this file, I'm going to paste that ticker ID. I'm going to just name it ticker ID. Remember, this is AMC. This is just for an example. Now we're going to head back to our developer window, and we're going to click on the trade tab up here at the top, which is going to open a new window. Open the dev window again once you're at this point. Now we can start getting some data. So let's go ahead and see if we can get some real-time stock data. So I'm going to click on the stocks tab on the left-hand side, and then you're going to see a bunch of different URLs pop up on the screen. The one we're going to get is going to be real-time IDs. Click this URL, and then just like we did before, take this URL request, copy the entire thing, and paste it back over to our new file. Now in this new file, we're also going to need to import requests. And then just like before, we're going to paste the URL and define it as URL equals F and paste the URL. Now, we're going to modify this just like we did before. We're going to take all of these ticker IDs that are in there, erase them, and now we're going to simply put ticker ID in its place. So now this URL is specifically going to retrieve the real-time pricing data for the ticker ID that we have specified, which happens to be AMC. So now that we have everything defined, we're going to do, again, response equals request.get URL equals URL dot JSON. Then we're going to print the response and see what the terminal shows us when we run this. So now you can see we have data. So look at that. We have ticker ID for AMC, we have the exchange ID, we have the region ID, we have the name of the company, we have symbol, we have the exchange code, and then we start getting into more lucrative data that we want, such as the change ratio, which is going to be 0 because the markets are closed. We have the price, we have the market value, we have the volume, we have the turnover rate, we have the average volume for the last 10 days, for the last 3 months, we have the negative market value, price to earnings ratio, outstanding shares, 52-week high, 52-week low, open high, close low. Pretty awesome stuff. But how do we get this data? Well, just like we did before. So since there is no initial key holding all this data, we can immediately just begin gathering this data. And to do that, we're going to head back over to our program, and then we're going to do this. To get a clean output, we're going to do for I in response, and then we're going to zero index this off. We're going to print I, which I stands for item. So now let's take a look and see what happens when we run this. So you see how all of those variables that I just named are now clearly defined right here in this terminal. What I like to do to make it a little easier is you just take all of this, you copy it, head back over to our program, erase that for loop, paste all of this, and then now we can pretty easily define the data that we want. So let's keep the name, the symbol, let's keep the volume, the market value, turnover rate, open, high, low, and we'll do the close. So now to get the data that we just saw, we simply just define this as name equals response 0 name. Symbol equals response 0 symbol. Market value equals response 0 market value. Volume equals response 0 volume. Turnover rate equals response 0 turnover rate. Open response 0 open. High response 0 high. Low response 0 low. Close response 0 close. Now we can print off this data whenever we want. Since we know it's real time, now we have access to real-time AMC data for all of these data variables. And this is just one URL. So for example, if I wanted to constantly monitor the pricing of AMC right now, it'd be very easily done by doing while true print and then an F string. The current price of AMC is currently, and then in that curly bracket we're going to put close, because the close is always going to be the latest price or the closing price for the last recorded window, which in this case it's real time. And then to prevent too much data from printing too quickly, we're going to import asyncio, and then we're going to import time, and then after we import time we're just going to do time.sleep 1, and then we're going to run this program. So you see how it's continuously printing to the terminal. The current price of AMC is currently 4.550. If the markets were open, this would update every single time the price changes. It would reflect the price in your terminal. So again, this is just a initializing tutorial to show you how to get the data and convert the ticker IDs to retrieve real-time stock market data. But don't worry, we're going to be building an entire kit, an entire program with classes, functions, how you can integrate it all to create a pretty complex and pretty useful system for yourself to analyze markets in real time. Have a good one.